advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Elizabeth and Elizabeth. Welcome.
Thank you, darling. I am the Queen. On my accent sounding a little bit more like a French-Russian woman.
Well, and I must remind you, my dear, you were the Queen. I am the Queen.
Okay, welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We're having entirely too much fun playing the two queens.
Corky. I said we can't laugh.
You're Queen.
It's very sick.
Queen Elizabeth II, may I ask you why you brought that yapping dog to the studio?
Well, I feel that it's important for all of us when we're talking about autism. There we have it.
I agree with that. With that sentiment. You know, I was the most powerful queen in the world. I ruled over the entire world at one point, and I kind of like to think of us as the queens of the studio here.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say the queens of autism. I wouldn't go that far, but...
No. No.
No. But I would say that we have quite a good time reigning over the show. And we thought we would, you know, last year, I totally laid it down because you were very, I believe you felt your Ethel was a disappointment. Kelby, do we have costumes from last year, darling? Yes, there I am as Lucy, and there you are as Ethel. And I do have to say, I was pleasantly surprised that I found a Lucy makeup tutorial online, and it really kind of transformed me after I did it. And so when I told you that I was going to be Lucy, and you kind of, you know, you put an Ethel together, but let's face it, this is a much better effort.
There was a need to step it up since Ms. Alspaugh-Jackson is someone who takes this very seriously.
Well, I say if you're going to dress as someone and do tribute to them, as we well should with the Marys, being that they are two of the most powerful women of all time, whether you like their politics or not. I do believe we should pay tribute to them. So in paying tribute to someone and dressing like them, I believe verisimilitude is highly important.
Absolutely. I will say this, and I know we both did a little research on our ladies, and I will say that
are we breaking character
yes,
now?
we are now, because I want to talk a little bit about autism.
Okay.
I put in Queen Elizabeth II and autism to see, you know, how has she gone on record and what kinds of things. And of course, there wasn't a whole lot because she doesn't say a whole lot of things about a whole lot. Let's be honest about that. But on her
Sound slipping.
yes, in more ways than one. But there is something called the Holyrood House.
Yes.
And it's an art museum, and on their website, and this is all Her Majesty's doing, you know, she orchestrates all this. There's a lovely, probably one of the best pages I've ever seen of instructions of what sensory things are there at the museum and how to enjoy it if you're a person on the autism spectrum.
Well, that's wonderful.
And I really appreciated that. Yeah. I really appreciated that because I love to take my son to view art. I think it's important.
Yeah.
People who have special needs
really important.
aren't to be excluded from that. And I thought it was great that they went to great lengths to describe, including saying there are glass doors here which make the sound a little reflective. I thought it was really wonderful.
Well,
My crown slippeth.
My headband is slipping as well.
But you look lovely, darling.
Thank you, darling.
You're like a Barbie doll. You can dress you up in anything.
Something is like slipping severely. Okay, so pretty soon the whole thing may. This is Lucy's wig from last year, and it's all askew. So at any rate, I was fascinated to discover a environmental poisoning link with Queen Elizabeth I. Yeah. When Queen Elizabeth I was popular, ivory skin was very important. The Queen got smallpox when she was in her 20s. She was very scarred and disfigured. She put on a white makeup that was lead-based every day of her life on her hands. I mean, for me to get this pale, I had to use 3 coats of ivory and white powder and all kinds of things because I'm about 30 shades darker than this, okay? Hence the gloves. But they said that it was the lead-based paint that led to her brain tumor that she died of.
Isn't that amazing?
So much for the fact that environmental factors can't cause very severe issues.
Absolutely. Well, even if we look at Alice in Wonderland, and you know, there's the whole Mad Hatter in there.
Yeah, the mercury.
Hatters used to work with mercury, and so they would frequently go crazy. It was a well-known thing, Mad Hatter.
That's correct. But you are one now.
And here I am. A Mad Hatter. My lovely husband made my crown.
Well, he's a wonderful guy, and I don't know. You really. I stepped up the bar, and you met it.
She called me and said, "You better bring it. You better bring it."
I said, "Bring it on." I'm studying Cate Blanchett from her Oscar-nominated performance in Elizabeth. I was studying portraits. I wanted to do justice to the Virgin Queen.
And we should talk a little bit about why these two ladies, because we really weren't seeking in the beginning to be the two Elizabeths.
That's correct.
We way back when somebody had posed the question about, you know how they do this at parties sometimes, about who would play you if there was a movie about your life, and we got to talking about this, and I said, well, Helen Mirren should play you, and Judi Dench should play me.
Right.
And you said, oh, it's the two dames. We should be them for Halloween. And then from there you went to, no, they played the queens. We should be the queens.
Now we
do
have some pictures. Calby, do you have pictures of I don't know, Helen Mirren is the queen? You might not know which one that is. That is actually Cate Blanchett, who I'm channeling very much. Can you tell?
It's beautiful.
I'm totally channeling her right now. The whole inspiration for the crown and the headpiece. Elizabeth really loved her style. But there's another one, Kelby, with any of the ones with actresses. We can decide. We can explain who they are.
Oh, and there's Judi Dench.
There's Judi Dench meeting the Queen, and Judi Dench won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress playing this queen, Queen Elizabeth I, oddly enough. And it was Helen Mirren who won the Oscar for playing the queen you are inhabiting, which is obviously Queen Elizabeth II, our current monarch, but largely a figurehead, as we know, whereas my queen ruled the world at one point and defeated the Spanish Armada, no less.
Yeah, but she didn't have to deal with Twitter. So let's be honest about that, right? If my queen didn't have to deal with Twitter, maybe she, I don't even want to talk about her ruling the world. Anyway.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about Halloween and autism because do we want to share a little bit some experiences later?
Yeah, but first we have an interview that we want to do with the fabulous Vince Redmond, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. That he joins us regularly on the show, and we had to move his time earlier this month. So he's going to be with us this week, and then we have somebody else next week, and then Vince is back the week after.
Okay.
But Vince is going to be talking with us today about how we need to, this is the first of a long stream of holidays that we go through.
And it's not easy.
It isn't easy. And part of the reason why it's not easy is because we have our expectations, and sometimes they're not realistic.
And part of the reason for me it's not easy is one word: food.
Absolutely.
Food is a huge issue in the holidays. But that's not just
you. It's everybody.
Because the world out there is a world of food coloring, sugar, dairy, wheat, dyes, additives, and candy galore. and it's really still not geared. There are more and more ways it's geared to kids like ours, but as a whole, it's not.
It isn't, but there has been some headway about this.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to jump on this right now before we go to Vince. Kelby, have you got the teal pumpkin project picture that I gave you? There's something this year for the first time that's called the Teal Pumpkin Project. And you paint a pumpkin teal and put it in your front yard. And this is being done by FAIR. And that signals that you have treats that are for people who are allergic, they're not going to be a problem.
Oh, cool.
A lot of times they're not food. Like
Right.
if you could put that up one more second again, Kelby, I'm sorry. You can see that they're suggesting things like slinkies and bookmarks and crayons and bracelets and necklace and stickers and fake bugs and rings and pencils. And I mean, look at all the things
Yes.
on there, balls, buttons, all kinds of things that we
my
can
child
do.
would Wyatt would love to get pencils and crayons.
Yes. So that's something that for the first time we're going to do at my house this year is that I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have, I usually have something that's not sugar, something like pretzels.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to have a bucket with pencils and things like that to give away as well. Because with my son, he goes and gets the candy and he trades it in for other things, but that's not workable for all kids.
No, it's not.
To get teased with the candy and then told you can't have it.
I know. It's a hard time.
It is a hard time.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that later because I have some experience. Some of my worst memories from the world of autism, of Wyatt's tantrums, are around holidays. I remember them so clearly. A Christmas, a Halloween, right, after he had regressed into autism and me not understanding. And, you're forever changed by those.
Yes. But we're going to go first to an interview live with Vince Redmond where you will see that I am no longer in costume.
Thank God.
Watch the magic.
Keep that yapping dog quiet.
Absolutely.
Please.
And now, Mr. Vince Redmond. Well, and here we are. We have Vince Redmond on Skype with us, joining us right now. As promised, we are live in this moment. So if you guys have questions, you can be writing into us and telling us things that you want to know about dealing with Halloween. But first of all, Vince, are you there? We're
hello.
So grateful to have you as a regular on this show. And for people who are just tuning in, as I said before, the taped segment, Vince is a licensed marriage and family therapist. But beyond that, for so many years, for multiple decades, right, Vince? You were
21 years now.
You were a therapist working with individuals who are on the spectrum. And I always say individuals because you didn't just work with little kids, you were working with teens and adults. That's sort of when I have questions for teens and adults, I have like 3 people that I run to, and you're one of them.
That's awesome. No, and even now, I mean, some of my client load now are 22, 21, 20 years old.
Yeah. So I want for people to know that if you've got individuals in your life that are a little bit older, that Vince has got experience working with all of those age ranges, and now he is really fighting the good fight to help us as parents to be able to deal with all the things that we have to deal with, which that's a subject very near and dear to my heart. So Vince, we had said that we wanted to talk with you today about Halloween.
Halloween.
and
it's always a challenge.
Yes. And for me, it's like the beginning of a very long run, because it's not just Halloween, because we'll turn the corner, it'll be Thanksgiving, and then for some people it'll be Hanukkah, and for others of us it'll be Christmas. It's we move into this phase of the year when we're going to deal with holidays, and for me, I see that holidays deal with a lot of expectations, and I have friends who say that expectations are planned resentment. And I think that's true. So talk to us a little bit about some things that we should be thinking about as we're in the countdown to Halloween.
Well, and like you said, right, this is the countdown into the holidays. Halloween is the door that opens up the holiday season. We have Halloween and Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and everything in between, and New Year's, and every holiday has its traditions, has its family traditions, has its traditional, rites and rituals and so forth. And I think sometimes, with families, we always have to individualize these and look at what's going to be in the best interest of the family and the family dynamics as is, rather than pushing our kids into a tradition. We need to adapt that tradition so that it's going to be best for the kids, so that they can enjoy it, they can learn traditions, they can learn some of the rituals that kids do, dressing up for Halloween, for example, in a way that's safe, it's not confusing, it's not anxiety producing. And what I see a lot with our families now is we're adapting Halloween so that it's going to be advantageous for our kids, rather than just thrusting our kids into the holiday fest or the Halloween festivities as is.
Yeah, and
that's important.
It's one of these things, Vince, where I think about this all the time. When we were doing therapy, there would be moments where I would say, wait a second, what's the point of this lesson? And then it would get explained to me, and I would go, oh, okay, well, great. Then I know how to proceed, because this is what we need to teach, and this is what the point is. And I would find that sometimes at school, I would then say to the staff at school and say, wait a second, what is it you're trying to teach him? Because my son might do something that was off, somewhere else, but he did what they were trying to teach. And they would get upset about something else, and I would say, but we're trying to teach this. Right. So I think it's ideal for us to step back for a second and say, what's the purpose of Halloween? What are we trying to achieve with Halloween? I try to remember that when I'm in a good space as a parent. And I think it's probably different for everybody. And it's been different for me in different years. At this point in the game, with my son being 11, for me, this is an opportunity for him to be social with peers.
Right. Yeah, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of all the different learning lessons and learning opportunities that happen with Halloween. You have sharing, you have being able to work on asking and requesting for things. You have opportunities for social interactions. You have opportunities for imaginative play, being able to pretend to be something else. It be a pirate or a vampire or a ghost, right? You're able to, work on it with our kids using their imagination, using their imitative or, imaginary play, so that those skills are developing as well. And like you said, it varies per age and per level of skill level. But you're right, looking at Halloween as a learning opportunity is a great way of doing it, because there are so many just naturally occurring situations and naturally occurring, opportunities that you don't get on a regular day basis to either generalize a skill or to even introduce a skill.
Absolutely. And once I start thinking about, and again, all of us are going to have a different end goal, but what I want for this Halloween is for my son to have a really good social experience with some friends, that I would like for him to interact and have fun with a group of 3 boys that he really likes. So every time I start to spin in a direction and go, well, we have to do this, I keep going back and going, does that fulfill this goal?
Right.
Because I can get really off track very easily. Am I alone in this, or is that something that as parents we're wont to do?
No, you're not alone at all. I think a lot of times, even all parents, right? We kind of, want Halloween to be a certain way, or we want a certain experience, or we want, to maybe replicate the fun that we had as children. And what we need to do is, like you said, sometimes that's attainable and sometimes it's not, based on the situations that we're in. And we need to look at what our priorities are. If we can achieve both by, having our children experience the experiences that we have, but also using those learning opportunities to teach them, that's really the goal that we should be striving for.
Yeah.
We don't want any of these opportunities to go for naught. Opportunities for you guys with social experiences, you're doing the right thing by bringing the kids to you, controlling the situation, and then you can then go maybe a certain pathway of certain houses, or maybe have certain games at the house that they can play that are structured, controlled, will give Jem the opportunity to learn. And this is is the same with all of our kids, is setting up situations where we can control it at the house, or even if we're going out in the neighborhoods, to have it controlled, structured, and use that learning opportunity while also having fun.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how, even last night as I was working on his costume, my son wants to be his character that he plays, his avatar in Minecraft. And I don't know if you know those. It's great, but the thing about it is that I was making the head for it last night, and it's a full cover the head, cover the face thing, and I realized I'm going to have to do some creative surgery on the head so that his face can be seen, because if my goal is for him to have a social experience for Halloween, the costume has to be great, but he has to be able to see and hear and have people see and hear him, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it definitely being able to hear and to be able to talk, so that he can have those social interactions. Obviously he has to have eye holes or he's going to fall down.
Yes.
Type of thing. I don't know if he necessarily has to have his whole face exposed.
That's what I'm
thinking. You're right, to have all of those parts so that he would be able to, reciprocate conversations, be able to participate in events, being able to make sure that he's following directions, right? He has to hear to follow directions, all of those kind of things, right? I mean, all those facets need to be, available for him so that he would be able to participate appropriately.
Yeah. So, and it didn't occur to me here. All week long I've been like, well, what's my goal? Social interaction. As there I'm making this thing to cover his entire face. So I'm rethinking it and thinking how I can cut out around the face so that his face can be there, and it will be a slightly different costume, and I will cut the face out so that it can be velcroed back in for when he wants to do pictures and things. But I think we get a little bit off course from time to time. I think of previous years where, for me as a mom, it becomes all about the costume. And as he would shed parts of it. And I remember when he was Spock from Star Trek, and we went everywhere to find the little ears to fit him, and we got 2 houses and he couldn't hear, so he took the ears off. And for a second I was like, but you gotta have the ears on or nobody will know who you are. And then I went, he's at a second at strangers' door. Who cares if they don't know who he is?
Right.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah, Halloween, the costume is about the picture, right?
Yes.
The picture in the beginning, and then, 3 minutes later, I think almost everyone's costume starts to, slowly disintegrate.
Yes.
Pieces here, pieces there. And again, we don't want the costume to be, something that's going to ruin the experience, right? If the costume's uncomfortable or the costume is something that, they're not showing a lot of importance into, we encapsulate it. It needs to be important for a certain amount of time. It needs to be important for the pictures. It needs to be important so that grandma can see you. And then after that, let's explore, let's have fun, let's continue to move on so that it doesn't ruin the day. It doesn't ruin that opportunity. It doesn't ruin the experience, because the experience needs to be, a positive, needs to be something reinforcing, something that he wants to do again, year after year after year. And if we let the costume be, somewhat of a deterrent to that, then we're ruining that opportunity.
Yeah. I really loved Disney's Frozen movie, and we all love the song. And I find myself singing the song Let It Go whenever I get into a space where I'm making it about my agenda, which really isn't my agenda.
Right.
And saying to myself, let it go. Let it go. That's not what's most important right here. And when you think about it, it's so funny to me how attached we can get to that it needs to be a certain way, because we think that's what's going to make everybody happy, when in fact everybody being happy is not incumbent upon it being that certain way.
Right.
And I always like to say on this show that puppies don't have kittens. And when we see that our kids have inflexibilities on the autism spectrum, often it's because we as parents also have this gene. Have you noticed that thread in your autism parents, Vince?
Right. And well, that's where we find the happy medium, right? That's where we find the costume's important for a certain amount of time, and we teach it, we have to work on his inflexibilities, right?
Right.
So that he needs to wear the costume, full costume. It'd be the ears, it'd be the head, it'd be, full dress, what have you. until these two objectives are met, right? And then after that, then it becomes our flexibility issue where we have to go ahead and be comfortable and be okay with it, starting to take parts of it off or starting to adjust parts of it or sometimes lose parts of it, right? Let's be honest. We have a lot of kids running around at night. I don't know how many shoes or, ears or, so forth that we've seen.
Yes.
Where, again, it gives you a natural opportunity to be able to work on both of our flexibilities, being able to work on his flexibility about maintaining the costume for certain objectives or a certain amount of time, and then us working on our own flexibilities to be able to let it go, be able to be comfortable with, he's enjoyed it to this far. Let's continue to let him enjoy it, for the rest of the night.
Yeah. So what's a reasonable amount of things to be working on Halloween night? I know that I want my son to be socially interacting with his friends and, most importantly, staying with the pack. So we have been rehearsing, as per Dr. Tarbox's instructions, both in our house and out on the sidewalk at night, that, we drop the bucket, the candy into the bucket, and he says, thank you, and then he immediately runs, because that's what the other kids do. And that's, before Vince, he would stand there and look at the candy, and his friends would be 2 houses down.
Right.
So now, we've reinforced him, and we've been working on this for a couple of days. So talking with his friends, and the minute he gets the candy, saying thank you and running, so it's the thank you and the running. That's 3 things. Is that a pretty reasonable amount to be working on? Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's what you guys are doing right now is extremely important. You guys are preparing goals, preparing, specific, behaviors that we want to target while we're out there. It be the reciprocation of thank you and receiving of the candy and then keeping up with his friends. That's great because you knew that was an area in which he, wasn't keeping up with, last Halloween. So we're able to use our past behaviors as an opportunity or as a precursor to what we need to do this time. And I think, again, as we had mentioned earlier, every family is going to be different. Every child's going to be different. But I think it's extremely important to set those goals ahead of time. And I know we're, only 2 days away at this point, but it's never too late. Just start practicing right now the goals that we want to achieve during Halloween. Either it be sharing, it be talking with our friends, making eye contact. Maybe it's, again, keeping up with our friends. Maybe it's, just not talking as much. We have kids that, that predominate they dominate the conversations. We want them to listen more, listen to their friends, follow their peers, suggestions and so forth. But, practicing it ahead of time, I think, is extremely important and very valuable because then they have the opportunity to use it and to practice and to actually apply the things that we've been working on.
And I want to say, too, that over the years, this will be my son's 12th Halloween. And over the years, and that's not very many times when you think about it.
Right.
12 times with a boy with autism to have rehearsed these things. But each year, especially when he was younger, I had too high of expectations. The year that he was diagnosed, right before he turned 3, I thought, oh, this is going to be the first year that he gets it. Because when they're 1, they don't really get it. He was 2.5, and I thought he's going to get it. And I was so excited, and he was in his Buzz Lightyear costume, which he loved. And I think we went to 3 houses before there was a full-on meltdown.
Right.
And I was so disappointed. And now I look back and think, 3 houses, that was enough.
Right.
That was totally.
And then the next year it's 5 houses. And
right.
Maybe the next year it's 10 houses, right?
So I want to give some hope to parents that they don't think that whatever happens with this Halloween means that that's what's going to happen every Halloween.
Right. Well, and I think your example is what we were talking about earlier as well, is what's going to be most appropriate and most successful for our kids versus what was our expectation when we were at kids, right?
Yeah.
When we were 6 years old, 7 years old, we ran around the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
We were out for hours. That's not the same as what our kids can do in what they should do, right? We want to make it successful. If it's 3 houses and they're happy and they've met their goals, they've said thank you and they've kept up with their friends, or they've did their little speech, got their candy, and then went back to mom and dad, and they can only tolerate 3, 4 houses, that's a success. Yeah. Take it, enjoy it, go back to the house. And relish in it, because that is a successful evening.
Yeah. And all of our kids aren't going to want to trick or treat. There are some that aren't going to want to trick or treat at all.
Right.
And
some just want to be with, just follow.
Yeah. Or or to just, some kids prefer to stay at the door and hand out the candy.
Yeah,
Some
just-
kids prefer, some kids prefer not to participate at all. And while that's disappointing on a parent level, it's not the worst thing, but would you encourage parents of the kids who don't want to participate at all to at least go to one house and experience that, or let it go?
Well, again, depending on the severity of their deficits and where they are, I think trying to get them involved in something that their other peers are going to be involved in is important, right?
Yeah.
And again, it might be minimized all the way down to just handing out candies or wearing a costume and dropping candies in a bucket, or just opening the door and letting mom and dad do the rest. Some participation in what's going on around them is important because it gives them more observation, more environment, community awareness, peer awareness of what's going on. We do want to try to get them at their level, though. I think, like we keep saying, it's very key that we're doing it at their level, at their pace, to get them involved in these situations so that they're more aware of what's going on, more aware of the holidays, more aware of things that they might be learning in school. Age appropriateness is very important, too. Very young ages, maybe they're too young to really experience or understand what's going on. But when they're at the age and the ability to, just really start understanding what's going on in their environment, I do think it's important to have some type of participation.
Yeah.
Either it be, a very minimal to, complete inclusion.
Yeah, I've spent years. My husband is a regular Santa Claus, and even before I met him, I was an elf at Santaland in Macy's years ago, and you get to see a wide range of kids sitting on Santa's lap, and it's very interesting to me that we all understand that there is an age when kids are toddlers when they will be terrified of Santa Claus.
Right.
We all get that, and we let our kids have that, and we don't push it. But it's interesting to me that when kids get a little bit older, there is a need to push, and it's both in the autism community and outside the autism community. And I've watched so many parents push, and then we get to the meltdown, or other parents who are actually more successful who say, you don't have to do it, but we're going to stand here for a minute.
Right.
We're just going to look at Santa, and it's going to be okay. And sometimes when parents take that minute and say that, then the child is willing to stand next to Santa Claus to take a picture, which means the next year they're more willing to do other things.
Absolutely.
It's all a process.
That's a perfect example of capsulizing what I was thinking is just slow inclusion, slow involvement, slow observations. They're still participating. They're still, enjoying the event, but they're doing it at the level in which their comfort level is, and that opens up the door for more comfort level. That opens up the door to more experiences, and it opens up the door for more observations. The more they're aware of things, then the more likely they are to try things. When things are confusing or unaware or new, anyone's going to be more timid, more reserved, more anxious. And by launching them into something and trying to get again, I think a lot of times it's our expectations met, then we're going to have a failed result.
Yeah. Well, Vince, we thank you so much for your time and all the things that you do. We're almost out of time here. I want to remind everybody that you're going to be back with us in 2 weeks again. And then we're going to talk, if it's okay with you, we're going to talk about some of the issues that come up when extended family is visiting, or we're visiting extended family, and some of the issues that come up whenever there's a holiday that involves food. Food. It just seems to be, I was saying to Nancy the other day, food and politics and religion, everybody's got an opinion. And even when their opinion isn't wanted, appreciated, or everybody's got an opinion and they're sure they're right. And it can be really hard on a family around Thanksgiving, especially when we're trying to get our grateful on, and people are telling us what we need to eat. Ooh, it gets touchy.
No, it is.
So we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. So.
Absolutely.
But we also want to take just a second to talk briefly, we just have a minute here, Vince, about some of the things that are going on for you internally at CARD and how you're connecting with families and helping CARD families. So if there are CARD families who are watching, we want them to know about some of the things that you're doing.
Okay. CARD now has a department called Family Support Services, and what it is we've developed a department to add resources, education, knowledge, anything that can help a family. It be counseling services, it be parent education, it be just connecting with connecting with resources in your environments, connecting you with different resources within CARD. I think a lot of times we have a lot of resources that many families are unaware that we have, and so we developed a department that we start working with kids and families at intake to support families, give them more resources, give them more mentoring, give them, different types of resources within their environment. And we continue to monitor, work with them, educate them throughout the whole treatment plan as they're with us, so that we get this, the optimal results for their kid. Okay. The resources show that, or the research shows that the more engaged and knowledgeable and active the families are in the treatment plan, the better success. So we want to make sure we're providing all of that for each family within CARD.
Well, we think it's really important what you're doing, Vince, and we appreciate that you take the time with us to be with us here. So I hope that you have a wonderful Halloween with your family, and I'll let you know in 2 weeks how we end up doing on the socialization for this Halloween.
I look forward to it.
All right. Well, you take care.
Right, thank you.
Bye-bye. And
next time.
Thank you. You too. And as we're now going to go to a commercial, and then we're going to go back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. You get a little bit more time with the Queens. But don't forget that tomorrow we're going to be here with Dr. Del Nadowski and Dr. Jonathan Tarbucks. So first watch this, and then more of the Queens. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull-string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus, we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun, actually, for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out, because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salt, so whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy, has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party, but it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour
that you want. This just smells awesome, and we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat, so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See, easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're gonna put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're gonna stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's gonna do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue. And then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you wanna do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just gonna place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just gonna pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun.
Hello and welcome to Autism. I am Queen Elizabeth I, aka Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I am Queen Elizabeth II, aka Shannon Penrod. Welcome. Having so much fun here with my friend Nancy, who encourages me to dress up.
Oh no, you started it with Lucy and Ethel. And
I didn't start that. A viewer said that we were the Lucy.
A viewer said we were the Lucy and Ethel of autism, which we kind of are.
Here we proved it.
And then, so we became Lucy and Ethel last year, which we loved. I kind of went crazy. I did a Lucy makeup tutorial, you know. And Shannon had no idea how serious I could get about these things. So,
which is why I look like Martha Washington in the picture, standing next to the like Madame Tussauds Lucy, and I look like I look bad. But anyway.
So this year, she's outdone herself, corgi and all.
Can I tell you, and then we were talking about this earlier.
And I did bring you a purse, because you never go anywhere without a purse.
And we did mention, we don't want to name names, but we did mention that there are shows, network shows, where people have teams of people helping them to dress up.
Yes.
As I was sitting there last night at 11:30 sewing a dress.
Exactly, darling. And I was making this headdress for the last week, the elements, bringing them together. And, you know, I had to, this morning, start very early turning myself ivory, because it's not my natural color, so to speak.
Well, but we were going to talk a little bit about what Halloween has been like for us, and some of the pitfalls that we've run into, so that hopefully we learn from those, and you know, if there's an opportunity for you guys to learn from the mistakes that we have made in Halloween's past.
I gotta just say, it's really fun to be sitting here having a good time at Halloween.
Yeah.
It is, because I used to call Halloween my worst nightmare, starting when Wyatt was about 2, because he was just, you know, was regressing more and more and more. The tantrums were more and more and more. He was nowhere near a diagnosis. We'd wasted another year after that. You know, speech therapy and not getting a proper diagnosis, but that's a whole other book. And we were out at he had a little best friend from Mommy and Me. I did a Mommy and Me exercise class, and he became best friends with a child, and they were like brothers, and it was very evident soon that as Ryan was talking, Wyatt was losing all talking, as Ryan was becoming what seemed to be more interested in everything, Wyatt was less, and the tantrums started. So we had just gone trick-or-treating, and I just didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue the way food coloring, sugar, dairy, and wheat, particularly dairy and food coloring, just send him over the edge. So he had eaten all this candy and the sensory stimulation, because that was a big issue. So of course, what happens is after everything's over and I put him in the car seat, the most massive tantrum ever occurs. As I'm driving back home, too, he had freed himself somehow from the car seat. They can get out of them, by the way. And screaming, holy. And then when I grabbed him, you know, the biting and the kicking and the scratching, and it took 45 minutes over on a dark street to calm him down. And it was terrifying. And I thought, well, is this the terrible twos? Am I the worst mother in the world? Et cetera, et cetera. I thought, isn't Halloween supposed to be fun? So I have learned over the years my way of dealing with this. Number one, I make sure that he has alternative food. for his Halloween that he goes and he trick-or-treats and he gets it, but we switch it out.
Yeah.
Okay. We get him involved in the process of the costume well in advance. We try not to do Halloween experiences that are sensory, that are haunted houses and lights and things like that, because he also had a meltdown once at the zoo with the spider exhibit with the black lights.
Yeah.
So we just have a system of, I guess it's really what experiences we do, the food, very important. Today there was a bake sale at his school, Halloween based. I got donuts and all that and decorated with Halloween things for the other kids. I made sure he had gluten-free, dairy-free Rice Krispie treats. Is it easy to always remember this stuff? No. Do I always remember all of it? No. But I improvise and I make sure he gets a different kind of reward. Like maybe I'll say, you know, we're going to make Wyatt's Tex-Mex casserole, which is all, you know, gluten-free and dairy-free. And I have learned, and actually you helped even further cement this with Wyatt. You spent some time with him recently, and you noticed after he had, it was dairy-free and gluten-free, but it was a sorbet or a...
It was an ice. It was a sorbet,
it was an ice, yeah. And it had sugar in it and some dye, we think. And you saw the reaction happen so quickly.
It was, you know, and sometimes it takes an outside eye, but and can I tell you that I went to Nancy to talk about it, and I had trepidation about it. I said, you know, I don't want to overstep, but I saw this happen. He was right as rain. He was right as rain, and we were having a conversation, and everything was wonderful. And he had 2 bites of that. I don't know whether it's the sugar or the dye, and he was a different child.
And you know what? We've known that for years, but you get lax about it.
Of course you do. That happens with my child too.
I get lax about it, and we know for certain that he reacts to that, and we know for certain our child reacts to, he cannot have any form of dairy. He just can't. It's too tough on his. Not only does it make him in the autism fog, it's very tough on his digestive tract. It has a lot of ramifications. So, and you know, now looking at it later, it's really a blessing you learn these things, because you learn how the behaviors are affected. And at first I'm like thinking, oh God, no, I can't give him any sugar or any dye. He can never have that icy. He can never have that Slurpee, you know, because let's face it, our kids are deprived of so much that so many kids take for granted. Right. We are a fast food nation. We are a sugar nation. We are a candy nation. And marketing is done through food, through cereals with food coloring and dye. Yeah. That's how they tie it into films, you know?
But here's my problem with all of that, and where, because our whole theme this week is do things that make sense.
Yes.
And
like holding a stuffed corgi and
exactly my point. Now, you know, but that's kind of fun, right? Yeah. And we do things because they're fun, and a lot of times when it gets to holidays, we do things because we remember a time when it was fun.
Interesting.
For us. We eat things.
Interesting.
We eat things. We behave ways.
We can learn something.
We're always chasing that perfect holiday from when we were kids, and we want to share that with our kids, because that's life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Am I askew? There's nothing wrong with that, except when that takes the priority of the having fun.
You're absolutely right. And the other thing we tend to do is just because our parents did it. If I hear my husband, of course, the Virgin Queen was never married. She was married to England. But I'm going to break character for a minute. If I hear my husband say one more time, and if you're watching this, please hear it. But we did that, Mom and Dad did that when we were kids. You know how long ago that was?
We don't want to get into that.
Also, do I care?
But
not that I don't love tradition, but it doesn't
mean that it makes sense.
You have to do exactly what Mom and Dad did 100 years ago.
When I would say to my mother, we're going to do it a different way, and she'd say, but we've always done it this way, and I would say, yeah, and Grandma used to put butter on a burn too, and we all know how that ends up, right? We learn, we grow, we do
and
things
leeches
better.
were used for bloodletting when people got sick.
Exactly.
And I died of mercury poisoning.
Exactly. My mother used to get so mad because she wanted to know when was Jem going to have sugar? When was Jem going to be able to have ice cream? And she would say, when is he going to be able to have birthday cake? Like, she wanted me to find a calendar and circle the date and say,
be like
this is
a normal
when.
kid.
And I finally said to her, the thing that made the difference, you guys, I said to her one time, I said, let's be clear. He can have birthday cake. He can have ice cream. He can have the lollipop right now. But here's what I know about my kid. If he has that, he won't be able to talk for the next 2 weeks. So do we want to trade and give him a lollipop so that you can feel better and give up him talking for 2 weeks? And she went, what? And I said, that is what will happen. He will be a mess. And if you want, you're here for 2 weeks. Let's do the demo and have him do it. But you're going to feel bad if we do that. And she said, no. And then she would quote that to other people when they would say,
that's
you can't
great.
have cake.
Well, that's a fast learner.
And she would say, he can have cake, but
nobody in my family ever learned that fast.
I'm telling you, when you put it that succinctly.
That's good. That's a good thing to do. Although my parents went to great lengths before they passed away, when we would go to Virginia to get all of Wyatt's special foods. They were so dear about that. They would go, to whatever their version of the not Whole Foods, they're more small markets there. And they would go and they would get everything I specified so the trip would be ready.
Right.
And, if you put it in those terms, and I'll never forget something Andrew Levinson, the really great biomedical autism doctor, said to me when he was treating Wyatt. He said, when I said something in the early days about, it's just, I hate it. We go to birthday parties, he can't have the cake, he can't have the pizza. What does every birthday party have? Cheese pizza and cake. And he said to me, rather than saying you hate it, reframe it and think of the favor you're doing your child, not pouring, food down his throat that can contribute not only to obesity but doesn't have nutrients.
Yeah.
And you're doing something that's better for his body and mind. Yep. Reframe it.
Yeah. I honestly remember like the first couple of times I went to birthday parties where it was very clear that Jem's food was different and the kids were like, what's going on? And feeling really angry, like, how come we got left out? How come he can't have the cake? Why is my life? And I would look at the other moms and be like, well, how did they luck out that their kids can just eat whatever? But you know what happens when your kid doesn't have it? You get to sit back and watch. And I remember once in particular, they had a black cat cake. It was black frosting. Oh, no. And so all the kids were walking around with this frosting, and they would stick out their tongues, and everybody was taking pictures of their kids' tongues that they were black from the food coloring.
And the kids started to get wilder and wilder.
Right, and I'm watching my watch, and it gets to be about 15 minutes after the cake is served, and everybody started crying except for the one kid who was hitting his head on the wall, who was not on the spectrum, right? And all the moms were like, "What happened? I don't understand." And I was like, And my kid, the one kid with autism there, was happily playing and walking around. Yeah, I didn't get a picture of a kid with a black tongue. Bummer for me. But I was the only person who took my child home that wasn't crying.
I know. It got hard for me, though, when Wyatt started saying to me whenever we go to parties, and he'd say, "Can I have that?" And I'd say, "No, darling." And he'd go, "It's hard, Mommy. It's hard." That was his standard line. Yeah. That worked for a while. Yeah. And our kids, if nothing else, are very smart about how to manipulate. So that did work, and I would say, okay, one little, and then I realized, okay, one little turns into woo. Yep, and giddiness and silliness and stimulatory behavior and saying things over and over. And if I really want to go crazy for the next 5 hours, listening to, him repeat Buzz and Woody dialogue directly from the movie, or... Okay.
All right. So, Kelby, do we need to take a break?
We have decided what is sensible, haven't we, my dear? I find it remarkable that, we are two of the most powerful women rulers ever. Yours largely, figuratively, I was really hands-on. I defeated the Spanish Armada. I beheaded many. And I know that you're very ceremonial, but it's a tough job, I must say. And I just have to say, I think if more women ruled the world as I did, the world would be a better place.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating our very own any animal mask. As we work on this activity, you'll notice that these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about what skills we're using to create this craft and how to find them on Skills. Skills is an ABA-based online program that helps parents create individualized programs for their children on the autism spectrum. If you're a Skills user, this will make the most out of this artful and educational activity. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are glue, scissors, hole puncher, markers or crayons, pipe cleaners, and the template. So step 1, you're going to go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Autism-live, and you're going to print out the templates that you see there. Once your templates are printed out, then you're going to take your scissors and cut them all out. Now that you're finished cutting out all the templates, you're going to have several different shapes. This is because this will give you a variety of different features you can use to make different kinds of animals. So this is the fun part. You're going to take these templates and arrange them into any kind of animal you can think of. Use your imagination. There is no wrong answer. Once you figured out the animal that you're going to want to make, take out your glue and glue them onto the mask. Once that's been finished, then you're going to take your markers and crayons and decorate it, drawing in the features a little bit clearly and just making it as colorful as you'd like it to be. For the owl that I made, I had to cut out some more holes through it. Once your animal mask is done being decorated, you're going to use your hole puncher to make holes on the side so you can fasten it to your face. Then you're going to take your pipe cleaners, thread them through the holes, and then voila, your mask is ready to go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on. To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parents icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm sorry, Elizabeth's dog has been staring at me the entire program. Control that beast.
I painted this dog's face. This dog was completely cream colored, and I with a magic marker and painted it. I had so much fun on Saturday.
And you said your dog was going crazy.
My dog, we would like come in the room, and this dog would be moved, and I would go, "Who moved the dog?" And then my husband caught our Cujo dog moving it. So
she can eviscerate that dog.
I believe she will be eviscerating. Now I've gone into Julia Child. I told Kelby
You
earlier.
hobbit it. Yes, I've forgotten.
And now we're going to cook the swan in a duck.
And now I'm going to go rule the world.
Yes. We are completely out of time, but I want to thank you for being here. We want to wish all of you happy
Halloween,
safe
and fun, right?
All right. So tomorrow we are still here one more day. So make sure that you're here tomorrow. We'll have Dr. Adele Nadowski with us. Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will also be with us, and we're going to be talking more things about how we do what makes sense, especially in light of these holidays coming up, and answering your questions. So make sure that you're with us.
Fabulous. It's a royal lineup.
It is a royal lineup. So we're the queens. Wishing you happy Halloween.
Off with the heads.
Make sure you give... Not off your heads. Give your kiddos a hug from me.
And me as well. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.